Today's Cowboys Report is presented by Manscaped. Head over to manscaped.com/chat and get 20% off and free shipping on all of their fantastic men's grooming products. Now, today's show is all about Dan Quinn, the new Cowboys defensive coordinator, and how his hiring is going to impact, or at least could impact, the Cowboys defense for 2021, both in terms of scheme and fit and players on the roster and free agency and draft and all of that. The number one thing I know is going to happen with the hiring of Dan Quinn, this defensive scheme is going to look at least a little bit different. What we saw last year in terms of 2020 for the Cowboys defense is much more multiple, some 3-4 principles, some cover 4, some cover 2, some cover 6, some cover 1, some cover 3, all of it in there. The defensive scheme, though, under Dan Quinn is much more likely to revert back to a closer scheme to what we saw in the Chris Richard, Rod Marinelli hybrid system. Now, back in 2019, the Cowboys ran cover 3 the second most in the NFL. Nobody ran it more, only one other team ran it more than they did. They reduced that usage this past year to 20%. That's a significant difference. And it's a much more important and impactful difference than the whole 4-3 versus 3-4 thing. And I get it. This is going to be a 4-3 base. But you know what? Despite me trying to tell you guys what was going on, it was a 4-man front last year too. Yes, there were some 5-man looks, and guess what? You'll see some 5-man looks this year with some guys standing up, some guys not standing up. Because you're in nickel 75% of the time. Guess what you do in nickel? You have 4 guys up front. Now, I want to keep DeMarcus Lawrence's hand on the ground, absolutely. The usage of how you deploy your defensive linemen is going to be a little bit different. What you ask them to do will be different. But 4-3 versus 3-4, it's 2021 now. That difference isn't nearly as impactful in terms of how you're trying to fit the run and what you're doing in the back end with your coverages. And there is a difference there between Dan Quinn and the Mike Nolan scheme. Now, you guys like the Dan Quinn hire. I think most of us do. I did a poll on the community. It was about 75% gave it a B or an A, about 15% C, and then everything else was either a D or an F. So do you guys like the Dan Quinn hire? If you do, I want you to like this video. If you don't, scroll on down. This is a safe space. Comment why you're not a fan. Now, regardless of who the Cowboys ended up hiring, of course it was Dan Quinn, it's not going to matter unless the Cowboys upgrade the players. You could bring in Bill Belichick as your defensive coordinator, and it wouldn't matter unless you get better players on the field. The reality of life in the NFL is this. The success of a coordinator is directly tied into how good the players around that coordinator actually are. And guess what? When you put up these defensive numbers, that means you're bad on defense and your players weren't nearly as good enough as maybe we thought. Was it the right time to move on from Mike Nolan? Yeah, things were not working out there. That was pretty clear. Tough to keep a coach when you allow one of the worst defenses and feel one of the worst defenses in Cowboys history. But they have to find a way to upgrade the players as well. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there are holes and needs at all 3 levels of your defense. Defensive line, linebacker, and in the secondary. And we've broken down a team need video already this year. Check it out on the channel. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section. What is this Cowboys team's single biggest need? Let me know what you think in the comments section. Now, we'll go kind of layer by layer here as well in terms of taking a look at some of these needs. We'll begin with the front 4. You got at least one awesome keeper in DeMarcus Lawrence. He's going to fit in this Dan Quinn system. I'm curious to see if they use that, what we call the Leo edge rusher. It's almost a 4-3 defensive end, 3-4 outside linebacker hybrid. They stand up sometimes, but again, it's a 4-man front because it's what you're asking them to do, not exactly what the 4-4, 4-3, 3-4 stuff is. Where I get concerned, though, is on the interior. Antwaun Woods and RFA, a pretty good run stopper. Neville Gallimore, Tristan Hill, they all showed some promise, but the reality is you got to get better defensive tackle play. There's some flashes from Hill and flashes from Gallimore. There's no one even approaching Aaron Donald levels. No one even at a Michael Brockers level if you want to go with the other Rams defensive linemen. That lack of an interior disruptor, dominant player, even just an outright very good player, hurts this team. The second you get a better defensive tackle, linebacker play is going to increase tremendously. And we've made a big deal about the run stopping. It's also a factor, of course. But you know what else is an issue? the pass rush for the defensive line. Antwaun Woods, I like him as a run stopper. He brings you nothing in the passing game. That's not a typo, folks. That is less than 1% of the time Antwaun Woods was generating pressure. But he's a good run stopper, right? Neville Gallimore, a couple flash plays, but mostly in the run game. Tristan Hill was actually showing promise, but now he tore his ACL. Justin Hamilton was decent enough, but also terrible against the run. Tyrone Crawford closed the year well, but I don't know if he's going to be back. You're in a very weird spot when it comes to the defensive line and when it comes to free agency and the draft. You've got some promising young guys in Gallimore and Hill. They can be rotation pieces for you, but you need an impact guy. Oh, the draft is not set up that well for an instant impact defense lineman. Even Christian Barmore, who I like out of Alabama, he kind of fits that Gallimore Hill mode where he might need a year or two to really impact. Maybe you look at free agency for that particular position. Now, as mentioned, Manscaped, they're today's sponsor here. You can get the Lawnmower 3.0. That is the single best men's grooming tool out there. Trims up everything nice and neat below the belt. You can get it at manscaped.com/chat. 20% off and free shipping on top of that. You can also use that promo code chat. Lawnmower 3.0. It's not going to tug and pull and cut you during while you're using it. But afterwards, if you catch my drift, you might get a little tug or pull. It's manscaped.com/chat. Kind of mentioned the linebackers here. Now let's go more in depth on them. I am very curious to see what decisions this Cowboys front office does. If you decide we're going to roll it back with Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith and you commit to that, well, again, nickel's your base defense 70% of the time. You're not going to utilize the third and fourth linebacker all that much. If you cut Jalen Smith, which again is a possibility, save $7 million to find maybe a smaller, more undersized, speedier linebacker in that Deion Jones mold that worked really well under Dan Quinn in Atlanta, that could be a path that they end up going. I'll say this, the draft, the way I think it'll shape out, not round one, but day two, I think you can find a pretty decent linebacker there to at least push the Vander Esch-Jalen Smith combo, which I do think makes some sense. Now, speaking of the draft, we'll talk more about some buzz around the Cowboys out there. If you want to have that video sent right to your phone, all you have to do is subscribe. Hit that big red button. That way you don't miss out on any of the videos we will do here at the Dallas Cowboys Report. It's a new URL, by the way, so if you're watching on Facebook or somewhere else, it's youtube.com/CowboysTV. Let's talk secondary now for the Dallas Cowboys, and this is the one that needs help, right? You have Chidobe Awuzie, Xavier Woods, Jordan Lewis, all as free agents. I would actually argue, especially because of all the injuries the Falcons faced at safety, but mostly at cornerback from that perspective, the Cowboys secondary was better than what Atlanta had last season. But you got to get help here. Trevon Diggs, locked and loaded. That is one of your probably top 3 or 4 corners. If you expand to 4, I feel good about Anthony Brown being in there. You need somebody else. I like Diggs. He is going to fit if you do go back to more cover 3 scheme. That's not an issue. You got to find somebody else at cornerback, right? And you know what is most important? And I get to do it again, guys. It's safety. Safety is a critical need for this Dallas Cowboys team. You need an actual, legit, dynamic, playmaking, rangy, free safety. If you just roll back with Xavier Woods and you're going to run cover 3 a bunch, it's not going to work. Again, it's often tied into the players. There is no Earl Thomas on this Dallas Cowboys team. Or I should say prime Earl Thomas. Let's differentiate between the 2 current players, right? Donovan Wilson, I'm down to keep him. I know he played both strong and free safety this year for the Cowboys. I think he's at his best, playing a little bit more of what I'm going to quote mark as the Cam Chancellor mold. He's not as big as Chancellor or Cam was, but you can still put him into more of that strong safety mold in the guise of that cover 3 scheme. But you don't have a dynamic free safety yet. And the draft, I mean, you can go with Trevon Morgan in round 2 out of TCU if you want. I would try desperately to finally, at long last, for the first time since someone named Ken Hamlin got paid, to go out and add a safety in free agency. And there are some guys that I'm intrigued by. Now, I would love Justin Simmons and Marcus May. I think they'd both be great fits in this defense, especially, frankly, May. But I am unconvinced the Cowboys will, A, get a chance to pay him, because those teams should pay their very good young players, And if they do, if he even fits, if they even fit the price tag. Anthony Harris, I'm fine with him. I think he's kind of more of a split safety guy, less of a true single high cover 1, cover 3 guy. Damontae Kazee played corner and safety for the Falcons. You can throw in Keanu Neal, but that's more of a box guy. Malik Hooker is actually kind of intriguing to me, but he's coming off of injury. That would be a bit of a buy low, bargain bin option. But I have to emphasize this point. If you go into this season with a similar defensive, playmaking guys, your starters are all about the same, you haven't drastically upgraded it, a scheme change is not going to fix it all. You have to find a way to upgrade the players. You can make money in terms of salary cap space. That is doable. You can pay Dak and still sign some good players. That is going to be key for the Dallas Cowboys this offseason. And you better believe everything that the Cowboys do and also could do, we'll do some free agency targets here in a little bit and draft targets too, is going to be available on the channel. So if you want to stay up to date, hit that big red button and subscribe today.